Coming up on Hoosier Sports Night, IU men's and women's basketball look to keep their winning streaks alive.
And we highlight a key men's soccer player before their upcoming run in the NCAA tournament. This is Hoosier Sports Night.
Hello and welcome to Hoosier Sports Night. I'm Amanda Foster.
And I'm Alex Hynes. Amanda, Thanksgiving's right around the corner. What's your favorite Thanksgiving food?
I'm going to have to go with cornbread. My mom makes a mean cornbread, really stands out.
I just like nice, simple mashed potatoes. Can't go wrong.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
After a season-opening win, the men's basketball team was back in action looking for their second win of the season over Bethune-Cookman. Our own Hank Joseph has more from Simon Scott Assembly Hall.
The Indiana men's basketball team won their second game of the season over Bethune-Cookman and showed vast improvement from game one both at the charity stripe and from behind the arc.
Free throws, it's pretty much mental. You just got to go up to the line with that mentality that you're going to step up and knock it down. So I think we've been really focused on taking free throws seriously during practice and locking in.
Head coach Mike Woodson had a more blunt takeaway.
But the bottom line is we won the game, and it was a total team effort from everybody.
While Mike Woodson states he only cares about the win, the Hoosiers fans cared about the way that Indiana won tonight. Miller Kopp 4 of 6 from 3 and the team 10 of 24 from the three-point range. This is something that Indiana fans did not see a season ago.
I'll swing this summer and try to get outside and get tan a lot. So, mentally I think that helped. And I think if you look at the best, basketball players, they all, Michael Jordan, Steph Curry, they all great golfers too. So I think that helped.
Whether it was the off-season golf practice or the countless hours spent in the gym, it's clear this is a much improved Miller Kopp.
Very nice because he's put in the work. He's put in a lot of time this summer shooting the basketball, and when we all got together, he was making them in practice. So I'm not shocked that he's making them now in the game. I mean, he's in a good space, mentally wise, and it's kind of nice to see him knocking them down because it helps us.
While the first two games looked great on paper, the Hoosiers' first real test comes next Friday when they travel to Xavier to face off in the 2022 Gavitt Games.
The Hoosiers have their first away game against Xavier in the 2022 Gavitt Games tomorrow night. Tip-off is scheduled for 6 p.m. Follow along with Hank, Josh Bodie, and Evan Kamiko for more IU men's basketball updates.
Last Friday, Indiana women's basketball hosted their second game of the young season against UMass Lowell. IUS TV Sports' Alex Hynes has the recap.
Indiana women's basketball made it 2 wins out of 2 on Friday with a dominant 93-37 win over UMass Lowell.
On a night where we got to sit our starters. It was great to see those other kids come in and do some good things.
While a lot of things went right for the Hoosiers on the night, it was the rebounding that stood out most. They held the Riverhawks to only 2 second-chance points. This kind of stifling defense is something they've been working on in practice.
We specifically spend anywhere from 5 to 6 minutes in each practice going over specifically talking about rebounding and positions and pursuing the ball and so forth.
A lot of rebounding is just wanting it more than the other team, and I think that we've really tried to put an emphasis on that in practice. We still can really improve on that end, but I think we're continuing to get better.
A year ago, we were good rebounders, but we had great rebounding guards. And now that we're without Allie, we're without Nikki, we're without Lex, who was such a great rebounder. We knew that was certainly going to be an area that we were going to have to address.
Coming off of a season in which depth had been thin, Indiana once again showcased their newfound bench, which combined for 42 points.
there's only 200 minutes, as I always say, and not everybody's going to, play the amount of minutes that they want. But, we found out a year ago when Mac went down, you just never know. You never know if there's going to be injuries. You never know if there's going to be foul trouble. So we just keep encouraging every one of them. Just be ready. Be ready when your number's called, because you never know, when that moment's going to happen. And when it does, our hope, from our staff is that they're ready to go.
From Assembly Hall, Alex Hynes, IUS TV Sports.
The Hoosiers then traveled to Knoxville on Monday, where they beat 11th-ranked Tennessee 79-67 for the first time in program history. They'll host Bowling Green at home tonight.
This year's struggling season did not get any easier. Indiana football traveled to Columbus to take on the number 2 team in the country, the Ohio State Buckeyes. IUS TV sports reporter Samantha Condra has more on how the Hoosiers performed in the shoe.
Indiana hasn't knocked off the Buckeyes since 1988, and after the struggling season they've had so far, the outcome of Saturday's game was expected.
Talented football team, we have to have guys step up, but I just didn't think the execution to me was still, even though we had a pretty simple plan, trying to help our guys get to the football, surround it, and get guys on the ground. So just disappointing performance for sure.
The Hoosiers allowed Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud pass for 297 yards, and allowing big plays was one thing Tom Allen said they couldn't do against the Buckeyes.
I was disappointed in the explosive plays we gave up, especially in the run game. More so, the pass game is hard. They got guys matched up against you, and just not enough hats to the ball, not enough guys making plays and finishing plays at the point of attack.
Redshirt sophomore Dexter Williams played most of the snaps for the Hoosiers, but most of the time he was spent scrambling, trying not to get sacked. Tom Allen talks about why it was so important for him to get this experience.
He's awful young, so I think just going through, as we put together a game plan this week, trying to maximize that when he was in there without putting too much on him, So I think there's a balance with all that. But yeah, I just think that any time, you can force them to have to count for him. He's just an extra guy in the box.
Williams took this as a chance to find what worked for him and what he needs to do to get better.
I didn't think I played too well. I think I did some good things with my legs a couple of times, but like I said, I just want to be way more consistent in my throws, and that's what we'll go back to work this week, and I'll work on that, and the receivers will work on getting our timing down, and we'll figure it out.
The Hoosiers will travel to East Lansing to take on Michigan State, still searching for their first win since September. From Columbus, Samantha Condra, IUS TV Sports.
After that loss, the Hoosiers fell to 3-7 on the season and are officially out of bowl game eligibility. However, some things about Indiana's future look bright. For instance, the way redshirt sophomore Dexter Williams has stepped up in the QB role.
IUS TV Sports football reporter Riley Woodall joins us in studio to break down what Williams brings to the team. Riley?
Thanks, Alex and Amanda. Well, Indiana's season is essentially over, but they might have found a bright spot for the future in redshirt sophomore quarterback Dexter Williams. The Macon, Georgia native came in after the Buckeyes took a 21-0 lead in the first quarter, and he immediately made an impact. Here, the Hoosiers run a simple read option play, and since Williams is an extra threat in the ground game, it forces Ohio State to account for another man in the box. On top of that, Williams displayed his arm talent with several beautiful throws throughout the game. And these weren't screens or slants like we've seen before. These were big-time floaters that moved the Hoosiers down the field. Williams was, without a doubt, Indiana's best player on Saturday, leading the team in rushing yards with 46 and throwing 2 touchdown passes with no interceptions. But the Hoosiers still have the same problems. Even with Williams' speed and energy, the offensive line just can't protect long enough. Here, the Buckeyes' defense only rushed 3, and Williams still got sacked. This goes without saying, but O-line recruitment has to be a must for Tom Allen in the offseason. The play calling has been another glaring struggle for Indiana, but here they have success with a reverse that gets their playmakers in space. It's movement plays like this that keep defenses off balance, creating big plays downfield against tough opponents like Ohio State. With the direction the game is going, it's obvious that teams with a mobile QB have a leg, no pun intended, up on the competition. With more time and development, Williams could be exactly what Indiana needs to climb out of a 2-year slump. Hoosier fans should expect to see a lot more of him on the field, maybe as early as this weekend against Michigan State. Guys, back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Riley. Coming up after the break, our Audrey Hausberger takes a dive into one of the most vital IU women's basketball players in the last 5 years.
And then our Kara Adams is in studio with more prior to the NCAA tournament. Stick around. Hoosier Sports Night will be right back.
Welcome back to Hoosier Sports Night.
Indiana women's basketball head coach Terry Morin always says grace is grace when talking about how talented graduate student Grace Berger can be on the court. But where did Grace's journey to the top of her craft start? Our Audrey Hausberger has more.
Grace is grace, a phrase Indiana women's basketball head coach Terry Morin always says about graduate guard Grace Berger. The phrase and her name speak for themselves, but for one man, the phrase goes a little differently.
Grace Berger is my daughter.
Todd Berger, Grace's dad, played collegiate basketball at Transylvania University in Kentucky. Now he's watching his youngest daughter play Division I basketball right here in Assembly Hall, a journey he helped kickstart for Grace.
She couldn't do a left-handed layup, so one night I taught her how to do a left-handed layup, jumping off the correct foot and everything, and she was having trouble with it. And I got home from work the next day, and she's like, Dad, 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 and she was doing it perfectly. You know, she'd practice it all day long. I don't really deserve the credit for ball handling stuff. Grace basically self-taught her all these ball handling drills.
Even though Grace took practicing into her own hands, she still needed Dad there to help.
I always was kind of, nagging him to get outside with me, whether it was snowing, raining. I would make him put on a jacket and suck it up and really just rebound for me and put me through those workouts no matter what was going on.
Grace would wake me up out of a dead sleep when she was in the driveway and say, Dad, I need you to rebound. I'm like, really? It was like 11 o'clock at night.
Todd knew Grace had a talent for basketball from an early age. He was proved right when he installed a hoop on their garage wall for his son Jack to play on. But
the person that was out there practicing on it every night was Grace. She was probably 4, maybe. She was out there every night shooting on that basket.
Now, as a graduate guard at IU, Grace said that all the time and energy her and her dad put in together in the driveway was worth it to achieve her childhood dreams.
He was always really hard on me when he was a coach, but that was just looking back on it. I might not have liked it in the moment, but now that I'm older, it was just because he realized that I love the game, and it was my dream to be a Division I basketball player, but I think he kind of bought into that dream.
You can watch Grace continue to live out those childhood dreams this season with IUS TV Sports. Follow along with our reporters Brianna Baylog, Alex Hynes, and Audrey Hausberger for live game coverage.
The Indiana Hoosiers look to snap a 3-game losing streak as they took on number 16 Penn State Nittany Lions last Friday. Our Andy Manzer has more from Wilkinson Hall.
A disappointing loss for the Indiana Hoosiers as they dropped 3 sets to the Penn State Nittany Lions. Although the box score shows an L on the win-loss column, the Hoosiers believe they are not far off from competing with the Big Ten elite.
We're almost there, and I think when we're in those huddles, it's we don't want to feel the same way that we do after games, so let's remember that feeling.
I just think that we've worked hard. We worked so hard to build up to where we are right now, given the past year, and I feel it's just I don't know how to describe it.
It's hard because it's we're so close, but
it's also very motivating.
In the schedule it looks like a loss, but in our minds it's we're so close.
I think despite really being clean and confident and poised and really trusting your skills, we're still learning them and finding them. And I think the only way you can do that is through training, and it's really hard to do that. The analogy is kind of building the parachute after jumping out of the plane. I mean, I have 50 things I want to talk to the team about and train, and we'll have 1 hour in Minnesota tomorrow. So, we don't have a lot of time to do X and Y. We just got to keep, it's how to eat the elephant. It's a bite at a time. We'll work on 1 or 2 things tomorrow and hopefully grow through the Minnesota match.
Miscues on the Hoosiers side led the team to a disappointing result. The Hoosiers had chances to take the lead or even a set late, but mistakes on what seemed to be routine plays kept Penn State in the game, ultimately leading to a Penn State victory.
The tone for me can't be a moral victory thing anymore. I'm at the point where I expect to win these matches. And it might be, pie in the sky, and it might be naive, but I think that's why they hired me. I've been to 6 Final Fours, I've won 2 titles, I think we're close, now we gotta bust through the wall.
With only 5 games left in the season, the Hoosiers look to gain some momentum in hopes of making a late tournament run. With IUS TV Sports, I'm Andy Manzer.
Indiana will look to return to the win column tomorrow at Wilkinson Hall as they play against the Northwestern Wildcats at 7 p.m.
Both cross-country teams competed in Terre Haute at the Great Lakes Regional for the chance to make the NCAA Championships in Stillwater, Oklahoma. The men's team got 6th overall, with the top performer being Gabriel Sanchez, who finished 14th. The next IU finisher was Camden Marshall, who crossed the line in 30th. The women's team placed 7th overall as a team, and Mariah Worley topped off the Hoosiers, coming in 16th place. Sarah Schmidt also had a top 20 finish. Indiana did not earn an NCAA bid as a team, but Sanchez, Worley, and Schmidt are in contention to receive individual bids to advance and represent IU in Oklahoma this Saturday.
Indiana Wrestling will host its first home meet against number 24 ranked Princeton. RB reporters Adam Oppenheim, Griffin Healy, and Logan Toon have more on what to expect as wrestling returns to Bloomington.
The Indiana wrestling team will be hosting its first home match of the season against number 24 ranked Princeton. It'll be the first match held at Assembly Hall since the 2017 Big Ten Championships.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows, the support of the athletic department in order to allow us to go compete in Assembly Hall. I mean, it's historic, with all the national championship banners hanging from the ceiling. I think for our guys, it's an opportunity to put on a showcase in front of fans in a different environment and make it a night to remember.
The number 24 ranked Princeton Tigers will be the first test for this Indiana program after coming off of a 26-15 win against SIU Edwardsville. One big change for this program is DJ Washington. He is moving from the 184-pound class last season to 174 this season.
He checked his weight, and he had lost a lot of weight. He wasn't able to lift in the weight room like he did last summer. So, to start the season, he was hovering around 185, which is, only 11 pounds over 174. And it was just, we put him in a bod pod, checked out his body fat and everything, and it just made the most sense to get him down to 74.
It'll be Alumni Day for this coming match, which is a homecoming story for many of Princeton's staff. Former IU wrestlers Joe Dubuque and Nate Jackson will be on the trail with the Tigers.
I mean, when you think about Joe Dubuque, he was a 2-time national champ, which is, very impressive. He left a long-lasting legacy. I kind of filled in for him, so he was a spark plug for me. He kind of showed me the ropes of what it was like to win here. And I think, he did a lot of great things for this program. And then when you circle back over to Nate Jackson, him being our last All-American, I think, he can provide that kind of blueprint of that. Again, it can be done here. You can be All-American.
Indiana will host number 24 Princeton Friday at 6 p.m.
The Hoosiers are 1-0 in dual meets this season and look to extend their winning streak against the Tigers. Follow along with Griffin, Logan, and Adam for all-season coverage.
Indiana men's soccer went through a lot of changes over the offseason, losing some key players from the previous years. Our Kara Adams now joins us in the studio with more on an emerging star from overseas.
Thanks, Amanda and Alex. When Quinten Helmer drove down from the Indianapolis airport to Bloomington for the first time ever his freshman year, he immediately questioned his decision while driving through the cornfields. Quinten is a redshirt junior from Amsterdam and began his career here without ever visiting the campus before. I had the privilege to sit down with him to discuss his journey to IU and where it is now. Take a look. Most people coming to IU have seen the campus once before, or are at least aware that they might be leaving their beautiful hometown on the West Coast for the Indiana cornfields. But one IU men's soccer player, Quinten Helmer, committed to play soccer here after only seeing IU's campus on a video. And as you can imagine, that car ride from the Indianapolis airport to Bloomington was quite shocking.
Helmer is a redshirt junior from Amsterdam, and I had the pleasure to sit down and talk to him about his journey to come to IU, his years here, and where his future will take him.
I wasn't familiar with the timeline, so here it takes like a year or two to get recruited. And for me, I just put my name in. I was like, all right, we'll see what happens. And I had some guy arranging stuff for me. And then a couple schools reached out, and I was very into college basketball. So I, for some reason, always had a feeling I want to go to Duke. And they reached out, and they came to Amsterdam to recruit me as well. And I was like, that's kind of like, in a way, the school I wanted to go to, because I always liked Duke basketball. I thought that was all that mattered. I was like flattered. I was like, wow, this coach from a big program is coming to like recruit me. But I'd been talking to Coach Yates, like, I always had a feeling like I like the coaching staff here better, but we'll see. So then the coaching staff of Duke came, and I was like, damn, I might lean towards that. And then these coaches came, and then it was kind of just like sealed. It was like, all right, this is where I'm going. Like, I like the school, I like the business school, I like the people, and I like the soccer program. So it was fun seeing them in Amsterdam, not knowing them. I'd never met them, but it was like super like family feeling with my click well with my family, which is super important. Well, in the beginning it was weird because, you know, especially when you're young, you think, you know, you're the best and like, wow, how is this happening to me? So that was tough. But I just decided to lock in on like school and have fun outside of soccer. I mean, I focused on soccer. Like, I showed up ready every day. But like when you don't play, you don't really get as much joy out of it. So I just decided to, you know, focus in on school and trying to like meet people outside of, you know, athletes. And I had a good time that way. So that was kind of my distraction. But I mean, as a freshman, especially kind of the way I look at it, you're kind of in like nobody a little bit. Like, you don't really have a role in the team, especially in terms of like the social hierarchy or something. And now you're more involved with all the guys. You're trying to help the younger kids out. And back in time, I was that younger kid that was kind of just trying to figure out his way on campus. And as a player, like, you just always try to do your thing. But when you don't play, it's different. Like, your role is just to support the guys ahead of you and push them, trying to make them feel comfortable, like, hey, you might take my spot, because that kind of raises the level. And now you should be like the guy that's being pushed rather than the guy pushing. And I like this better, clearly, but I mean, it can switch like on a day-to-day basis. Like, I can be, you know, you can start everything now. You can be on the bench tomorrow. You just got to be consistent with the way you approach things, and I think I've done a good job with that. My favorite memory, like, the fact that we lost in the national championship hurts, like, a lot. But it was definitely that whole, like, championship run, considering us in the bubble, too. So we were, like, stuck in a hotel in North Carolina for, like, a month. So you really get to, like, really close with your team. But overall, that's probably my favorite memory, just going through that. Clearly not winning hurt, and it still does, but that was probably my favorite experience. It depends what opportunity presents itself. Depends if it can contribute to what I want to do in life. Like, at this point, I can be honest, like, the MLS is not really in like a realistic opportunity for me, and anything below that, I don't think I'll settle for. Not saying that's not a good level. Yeah. That's just not my priority, and I don't even know if that's like an opportunity for me. I just think at this point I gotta be realistic and be like, I think I wanna, you know, prioritize like getting a job and something I can really do for a longer period of time, like the rest of my life, basically. So that's kind of my priority right now. I love America, so I'm pretty happy about that. But clearly it gives me a sense of pride. Like, I love where I'm from. Like, I really try to represent Amsterdam because there's such like sense of loyalty towards my city.
As Helmer's career wraps up here, his last goal is to get revenge from that 2020 national championship game and win a national championship. IU will be looking to make another long postseason run in the next couple weeks.
Helmer will be looking to help his team avenge their previous losses in the NCAA tournament and go out as a champion. The Hoosiers will begin their quest for 9 stars this Sunday right here in Bloomington when they take on the winner of Memphis and St. Louis. Amanda, Alex, back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Kara, and that's our show for the week. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at IUSTV Sports to keep up with all the latest in IU athletics. For our production crew behind us, I'm Alex Hynes.
And I'm Amanda Foster. We'll see you next time.